What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Investing Bros Live show. We have a special edition, 9 a.m. today, because obviously, unless you are waking up and you have not checked your portfolio or the markets, it is a bloodbath. It is down like crazy. I'm going to go ahead and even in this intro, we're not even in the intro just yet. In the intro, take a look at bubbles. Now, those red bubbles don't look necessarily that huge, but look at the numbers underneath them. 48% for Arweave. I'm thinking of our biggest one. Brett down 57%. Near down 42. Jasmine down 49. Ando down 49. It is a complete bloodbath right now in the markets. And today we're going to talk about it. Is the crash over? Is it going to continue to go on? How should you, as an investor, respond to situations like this? What do the history books say and what does logic say? We're going to cover all of that and a whole lot more. We're going to be staying live for the market opens as the US stock market opens at 9:30. Pre-markets right now look absolutely terrible. However, is that an opportunity? We'll cover that. Make sure you smash the like button and hit subscribe if you enjoy the show. But first, let's roll the intro. All right, everybody. It is going to be just me this morning. T-Shroom wanted to come live with me. Unfortunately, though, there's a hurricane called Debbie hitting Florida. I think it's supposed to hit Georgia, at least with rain a little bit, but he has no internet whatsoever right now. He said he's going to try to tune into the show, but even him sending me the thumbnail this morning, which he was able to do with his data, the thumbnail sending took like 8 minutes. So that just tells you right now, even the data right now down there in Florida, not doing very well at all. So love and support to T-Shroom and his family. If you are from Florida and you're watching, I don't know how you're watching. That's awesome. Tell us how you're doing. Let us know how everything's going on down there. I have family and friends, but so far I'm hearing nothing necessarily terrible. It was a, what do they call it? A class 1 hurricane. I don't know. Is it class? Is it what? Different things. I don't know what the different ranking systems for hurricanes are. Not the worst thing in the world, but it's Florida. A lot of Florida is below sea level. That means at least flooding could hurt a lot of people down there. So thoughts and prayers with everybody who's down there in Florida riding out this storm. For the rest of the space, though, we all have been under a storm over this weekend as Bitcoin and crypto is crashing. There's so many things really affecting this. I think the big trigger late last night, as we get into this, I said in the chat earlier, I don't know how long I'm going to be live today. There's a chance I have to be live for an entire hour because we have so many details to cover. You guys will have questions. I want to answer some of your questions. I want to look at a lot of charts. We're going to look at a lot of crypto. We're going to look at the stock markets. We're going to look at news. We're going to look at opinions that are being put out there right now because it is one of those moments that so much right now is causing people to believe it's time to sell and walk away. All the bears who have been very negative over the last couple of months and years, they're roaring this morning. They are extremely, I don't want to use the word happy because I'm not going to put that on the bearish analysts. I don't think anyone's happy that the markets are crashing, but they're going to say that they predicted this and they're going to continue to call for this early bull market top to be in. We are done. I'm just going to let you know in the beginning, I disagree with that take. I do think there's a lot of pain in the market right now. I do think that there's a chance, I think a very real chance, we could drop even lower. The question is how much lower and how much longer that drop happens. But I want to make sure you guys walk away from this understanding these are the moments that people make money. You never make money when everyone is confident. That is not the opportune time to be buying. The best buying spots, the best times to be investing, whether you're investing in crypto, whether you're investing in the stock market, anything, is when everybody else seems to be running around like a chicken with their head cut off. I think that describes this morning pretty well. But as I said, we got a lot to jump into. Let's go ahead and dive in. Let's just start. Let's not even do any real analysis here for a second. Let's just talk about what price action is looking like and some things that I just want to observe, and we'll come back and do some work here a little bit later after covering some news. First thing that I want to point out here, Bitcoin did come all the way down to 49,000. Now, I'll start off by saying, and I want to make sure people understand this, I was wrong. I tell you guys all the time, when I'm right, I'll say I'm right. When I'm wrong, I will say that I'm wrong. What am I wrong about right here? I told you guys last week that there was a possibility that these price levels would be hit, but I put the probability at very, very low. However, I did tell you guys, make sure you have a plan in your portfolio for if this happens. So while I was wrong about the probability side, and hindsight's always 2020, if I were to go back a week ago knowing what I know today, of course, I would say, hey guys, we're going to go down that far. But at the moment, dealing with the information I had, I still had the probability as being low. In fact, again, with different things that have come out over the weekend, those are kind of events that some people are going to say they called, but you can make an argument that a lot of things we're seeing right now could be classified as minor black swan events. That being said, I wanted to say it and get it out there. I was wrong. I thought that Bitcoin would be able to hold above this level, possibly wick down. I guess it's still early. We could come back up, but maybe a wick below. But I thought we would close a daily candle above 52. Again, it's early. Let's come back tonight at 8 o'clock and see if where the price of Bitcoin is. But price did come down here towards 49,000. Coincidentally, that is the top of where the day after Bitcoin ETF started trading live, we topped out and then had a nice 20% stumble. Now, I told you guys, altcoins are being obliterated right now. Let's make sure we keep this in perspective. Where is Bitcoin right now in perspective of where it was? Is still, and this is funny to use the word only because it feels very painful right now. But theoretically, Bitcoin is still only 33% down from all-time highs. Historically, that's not necessarily a big deal. It's a bigger deal for this bull market where we've never seen something go over a 25% dip. But 33% compared to history, bull markets are known for 40, 50% pullbacks. You guys are going to see these green what are these called? Arrows. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Coincidental situations that looked very similar to what we're kind of going through today. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But overall, prices, I just want to cover some prices real quick. Bitcoin came down to 49,000. Is it the bottom or not? We'll discuss that here a little bit later. Let's check out the rest of the market. Ethereum. Ethereum dropping all the way back down to levels we have not seen since February, January area. We actually wicked all the way down to 2,100 here on Ethereum. Again, much lower than I thought was possible. Probable. Was this possible? It's always possible, but a lot lower than I thought. Solana, I told you guys I thought 120 to 130 would be a good falling spot. I was wrong. We have actually come back down to 110. Now, coincidentally, months ago, 110 to actually $100 was something I told you guys to keep an eye on. But then when we found such strong support here in April, I did believe that the dip was over. However, we did say that $110 to $100 was possible for Solana. So while it's lower than I expected, it is something that is reasonable and rational. There's definitely support at those lower levels. The biggest surprise, I will say, and this is one that I really gave almost no chance of, and I was wrong. And if you guys want to stop listening to me because I was wrong, that's completely fair. I understand. I would like to hope that most people are going to say, you know what, we all get things wrong. Hey, you know what, Tim, now do we do now? Because I do have thoughts about what the future looks like. But I really, really, really did not think we would see Chainlink fall below $9.50, or at least like $9 area. I didn't think that was going to happen. This morning, of course, we wicked down to $8.17. The last high before this rally really started way back in October of 2023. You start to now have to, and I'm not going to get deep in analysis, but I don't think I'm going to come back to Chainlink during the video because there's just so many other things to cover right now. But you do come back to the equation of, all right, do we potentially have to talk about the head and shoulders pattern? Where's my marker? Did I get rid of my marker for some reason? Oh, my toolbar. It moved it way over here. All right, let's move this back. I don't know why that happened. Left shoulder, guys. Head, right shoulder. We're going to go ahead and just put the neckline as this flat level. Even though we have wicks below, I want to keep this kind of more conservative. Ultimately, we do have a drop down here to the neckline. If you move this over to the breakout spot over here, that's on the log. That's a linear chart. Excuse me. Let's go to the log chart. Because again, we're not going to go to $3. I don't think we're dropping below that. But let's redraw this real quickly. Excuse me for that, guys. My apologies. This would predict a breakout potential for Chainlink all the way down to $7.50, kind of the zone right before the real rally started. Pretty much eliminate all the gains that have come in this very hyped up cycle so far. Could Chainlink go that far? It absolutely could. I want to make sure you guys understand, though, one of the biggest reasons Chainlink is dropping is because the world economy is dropping. Japan obliterated. I think I mentioned that earlier, but Japan having one of their worst days, Korea's having one of their worst days, a lot of countries in Asia, Taiwan having one of their worst days in their economy in a long, long, long time. Guess what? With what Chainlink does with Swift and money transferring, that was a big blow. I want to make sure you guys understand, though, the reason I'm still bullish on Chainlink, and I'm not changing any of my long-term price predictions, is because I think Chainlink, coincidentally, even though it's dropping right now, is going to be one of the projects that fixes what currently is happening, the problem with what we're seeing at the moment. But again, we're not going to go deep here right now. We're just kind of walking through some things. Cardano back down below 30 cents, came all the way down to 27. This is something really big. I'm going to have to save this one for later. I have a lot of thoughts here. I'm not even going to talk about Cardano's chart for the sake of talking about what Cardano's going to do. I want to make sure we come back to Cardano's chart to explain how previous bull markets have operated to know, is this sign, how deep Cardano's falling, is that a sign that Cardano is dead or that altcoins are dead? We're going to address that here a little bit later, but let's now jump over. I didn't even get through half the altcoins I really want to talk about, but we're already at 9:11. Again, we're probably going for a whole hour on today's stream because there's just so much. I want to talk about the stock market, though, which is opening here in about 20 minutes, but let's take a look at a couple of the prices where we're seeing the pre-markets starting to talk about. Massive gaps are going to be coming in here. The first one, let's look at the S&P 500. This is now opening. Now, there's two different ways to look at this. You can look at the one that has the $1,000 mark. This is SP 500 index. SPY, it should be SPX versus SPY. They're showing things very similarly. The only difference is SPY has a pre-market. SPX at least doesn't show one, but they move obviously identically, right? So they're almost the same thing. Pre-market, $513. If that was over here on the SPX, that'd be $5,113. Pretty stinking close to something we talked about the other day that I thought the S&P 500 needed to cool back down to, have that nice 10% correction and come down here to 5,110. Guess what? SPY pre-market pretty much saying we're going to open here in about 20 minutes right at that level. What else do we have going on here? Dow Jones does not have one. NASDAQ does not have one. Gold down this morning, but nowhere near as much as others. Let's take a look here. Tesla, big pullback. Let's just go ahead and start looking at some of the percentages of how big. We're just going to open with a gap. We're going to open with a almost 9% gap to the downside on Tesla. That's going to be very interesting. Coin right now at 204. All the way down to 170 is where the opening is saying we should be. That would be a drop of 16.6%. Open drop this morning. Microsoft, I'm going to stop doing that because it's going to take my time. Microsoft is going to be reopening here on 390, it looks like. Meta is going to be opening here way down here on 453. MicroStrategy going to be opening way down here at 1,088. So big drops in the markets. I'm going to kind of wrap it up right there. Oh, let's take a look at Apple, actually. Apple is big news with the news that Warren Buffett sold half of his asset there. Let's talk more about Warren Buffett here in a second. Apple, though, going to be opening down below 200 again, which we have not seen since June here. That will be a drop. This one I do want to look at. Not as bad as the other, but still for Apple and how large Apple is, 9% drop. Absolutely crazy. The markets are expecting to open with blood. What does that mean, though, however? Because all of those things I just mentioned are major gaps. In fact, there's one more I have to take a look at when we go back to the Bitcoin space. And we're about to start getting into some news, and we're going to start making some points here. But let's take a look one more time. Let's look at Bitcoin CME. This was the big thing that everyone was talking about, and we ended up going a lot lower. And I told people, if we lose 60K, the probability of coming down to 50,000 was extremely high. But everyone talked about this CME gap. I have not moved the gap. I wanted to leave the old gap for you guys. We're talking about the gap we created a couple weeks ago, back on the 12th of July to 15th, where we opened a gap starting at $58,000. Guess what? We almost did perfectly. It's not perfect. It would have been funnier if we had done this perfectly, but we started a new gap this weekend, closing at close to $63,000 and opening back up at $58,800. So the gap that we were supposed to fill did not fill. Rather, we just duplicated it, but put the price to the downside. Now, what you guys should know is there's a gap to the upside that is in play. where we should see a resuming price action come back up and fill back above $63,000. Now we have a super chat right here. Let me read this. I want to get back in. Weird how it happens in the middle of the night on a Sunday, huh? Well, that's, big fish, little boat. That's the Asian markets. The Asian markets play massive roles. Again, Japan is crashing. Taiwan is crashing. Korea is crashing. Asia as a whole is crashing right now. But with that crashing comes extra liquidity. I'm going to talk more about this later on in the show. But just so you guys understand, you and I are surprised by this move. You and I are sitting here left very, very upset about what the markets look like, what our portfolios look like this morning. But there are large whales in the space. There are large entities. And again, we're just every single show now. I'm going to say composite man. New drinking game. If Tim says composite man, drink some water. If you guys thought I was talking about something else, I don't know why. This is a family show. The composite man knew this stuff was happening. The composite man is the one mostly doing all of this stuff. I don't think retail was getting out of this before the crash. Retail didn't know this was coming. It was the whales. It was the composite man preparing for this. It was the Warren Buffetts of the world, the BlackRocks and others. But if you think that they got out because they actually think that the market's about to crash a whole lot lower, there's a chance. There's a chance it will. But I ultimately see this as a great sign to steal money from the average retail investor. I was going to say this for later. Let's just go ahead and say it right now. I have not necessarily had the fondest thoughts about this guy more recently. While I love his book and I love some things he says, sometimes Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, says things that I just find very inflammatory, but he said something here over the last couple of hours that I 110% agree with. He commented on the Bitcoin crash. I just want to read you the quote that he said: "Crashes are times when the brave get richer and the cowards get poorer because they sell or do nothing. The world is filled with poor cowards. Be smart." The quote kind of speaks for itself. But ultimately, what he's trying to get at and what he's telling you is these things happen as a reverse Robinhood effect. These things happen to steal from the poor to give more money to the rich. Why? Because the rich understands that this is about to happen. The poor are the ones always left holding the bags. The poor are the ones who are easily manipulatable. The dumb money, the retail investor. We are just have to ride along the roller coaster as these whales and the composite man, they make every single decision about what markets are actually going to do. But ultimately, what is happening right now, while I disagree with Kiyosaki on several things he said more recently, I agree with him on this. This is the opportunity where poor people are going to be taken advantage of. Retail investors are going to be taken advantage of. Cowards are going to lose out. And I don't want to use that as a derogatory or a insulting term. I mean cowards by, are you too afraid to be invested? Are you too afraid to hold on to your current portfolio? Are you too afraid to buy these dips fearing that a much larger one is coming? Those are the people that miss out. Those are the people that lose out. It's the brave. It's the people like Warren Buffett, who has been known by saying, I buy when there's blood in the streets, even if it's my own. Well, today it's not his own because he took profit on Apple and several other things here more recently, but it is absolutely blood in the streets. People like him use these situations to gain their wealth because they're brave. They have a long time frame of their investing. They're not thinking about how my investment makes me money in the next 24 hours. They're thinking about the next couple of years. That's the way we all got to start thinking about this. KV with the super chat. Bottom in 100K plus Bitcoin will come in 1 to 3 months. Here's what I'll tell you, man. While I remain extremely bullish right now, we're about to go into some charts. I'm going to show you why I'm bullish. I also want to make sure you guys understand I'm not necessarily convinced that the bottom is in. I put it in our VIP group last night that there's a lot of people I heavily respect that are talking about the probability of 42,000 starting to increase. Again, I don't know if anyone is predicting it with 100% certainty. There's nothing you can predict with 100% certainty. But seeing how fast and how aggressively we fell over the last 24 hours, I think there's very much a possibility 42K is back on the table. Let me kind of address, though, before we get back into charts and before we have more arguments, let's get the elephant out of the room. Tim, what is the price level that you will sell and give up on the bull market? Well, I want to make sure you guys understand there's actually two different questions. That's the question I get asked a lot, but that's not the same question. There's two questions there. Tim, when will you give up? And when will you admit the bull market's over? I'll admit the bull market's over when we go back down below 20,000. If we go back below 20,000, I don't think there's a lot of reasons why Bitcoin would get back that low and the bull market is still on. I think there's still a possibility it is, but if we drop to below $20,000, and that's a far away from right now, yes, I will probably say, hey guys, we might have had an early bull market. We might have to wait this right out. That being said, just, that might be the bull market's over and we might drop a little bit lower. That just means that the next bull market is going to come a lot sooner than we anticipated the next bull market would come. So I'm still long-term positive, even if the bear market is here. But the other question, Tim, when will you give up? And that's a very easy answer. And I think there's a lot of you that are kind of in the same boat as me, but I want to make sure I'm talking to all of the newer investors. Not saying you have to copy me, not saying you have to be just like me, but this is where I stand on it. I will not give up. I will not sell. The crypto in my portfolio right now, I will sell when price reaches zero. You know what that means? I didn't even sell. It just means all of my position went away. The project officially died. I'm not invested in a single project that I think is going to fail long term. Could the price action continue to drop? Could the price action go a lot lower? It absolutely could. But if crypto fails, if Bitcoin fails, if Chainlink fails, if AVAX fails, if Solana and Ethereum and Cardano, if all of these projects fail, I don't think I'm going to be worried about money. I think if crypto fails at this point and fiat is allowed to stay in power, we as a world are going to be facing a much larger problem than how much money I have in my bank account. I'm not saying go mortgage your house, go sell everything you own and put it 100% into Bitcoin. No, you have to have cash at the moment to pay bills. This is a great wake-up situation also, by the way, for that concept of do not invest a single dollar. Don't invest a single dollar you cannot afford to lose. Why? Because if any of you invest in crypto thinking I'm going to double this money really quickly and then I'm going to pay my bills off, yada, yada, that is a very dumb decision. But if you have a penny, a dollar, anything that you can lose and still survive, I do believe that should be invested in crypto at the moment, probably specifically Bitcoin. If that fails, and if crypto is doomed, the world is doomed. Fiat's not going to fix the problem. If crypto fails, it is a sign that we were unable to take power back away from the centralized entity, the same centralized entities that want to drag us into war after war after war, that want to divide us more and more and more as a country. World War III, forget about World War III. Think about end of world, where you're living in bunkers, you're fighting every single day for your survival, where currency is not a dollar or a cryptocurrency. It might be food. It might be water. It might be shelter. It might be, I don't know if YouTube likes to talk about weaponry, but weaponry. If crypto fails, the whole system will fail. So what does that mean? I'm going to hold my crypto and I'm going to continue to ride out whatever storm that we go through. But I also want to make sure before I move on here that you understand this concept. When you looked at your portfolio this morning, the dollar amount is where everyone's eyes start off, and that's not looking good. Everyone's portfolio is down pretty much 50% from last week. If you had $100,000 last week and you haven't done anything different, unless you had just have all of that in Bitcoin, your portfolio probably looks like $50,000. That is not a fun thing to look at, to think about, to talk about. But I want to make sure I change your perspective, or at least I try to change your perspective here. Stop looking at the dollar amount in your crypto portfolio. I know we love it. I know that's the one that everyone gets into crypto thinking about, but maturity in investing in crypto is understanding that the dollar amount does not mean very much. Take a look at your Satoshis. Take a look at the amount of Solana you have. Take a look at the amount of Chainlink. Take a look at the amount of Ethereum. Take a look at the amount of whatever coin you believe in. Take a look at the supply there. And I'm going to ask you this question. Are any of those numbers lower? If you had 5 Bitcoin a week ago, do you still have 5 Bitcoin right now? If you had 1,000 Solana a week ago, do you still have 1,000 Solana right now? In fact, I hope a lot of you are like me, where throughout this dip process, I'm looking at my supply and I'm seeing that it went up. Why? Because I bought the dip. Short-sighted people, dumb money, and as Robert Kiyosaki put it here in this quote, poor money, they look at the dollar amount. They're always looking at what the centralized entities want them to focus on, and that is the US dollar, or if you're in China, the Chinese yuan, or if you're in Russia, the Russian ruble. That's what the centralized entities want you to focus on, because they understand that those things are all dying. But when you mature in the crypto space and you learn how to actually invest correctly and you understand where the future's going, you keep your eyes on the supply of your assets. And those numbers, unless you have sold and capitulated in fear, those numbers are sitting the exact same as they were a week ago. There's no reason to be freaking out. Welcome to the storm, everybody. If you are newer to crypto, welcome to the volatility. You don't get massive gains to the upside without massive losses to the downside. But with that said, I want to go in and just dive in here and start talking about some of the charts. We're going to pretty much stay a lot on Bitcoin, but I told you we also got to take a look at Cardano because I want to make sure that we're taking. Someone says my mic is lagging. Hopefully it's not that bad. Hopefully it's back up. Anyway, we're going to keep going on here. Let's take a look at what Bitcoin is doing even long term. Now, Bitcoin back up here above 50,000. A lot of movements happening over the last couple of minutes. That's all right. I want to take a look, though, at what we're seeing right now. Now, I want you to know this is a very high price for this to happen. In fact, I don't think we've ever seen the price be this. I guess back in May of 2021, we saw prices high. But Bitcoin at the moment, today, has had a volatile movement of 15.5% move to the downside. That's pretty big. In fact, historically, the last couple of years, this does not happen that frequently. However, it has happened a couple of times. I want you to come back and take a look at some of those times that we've had this big of a loss or greater. The first one I'm going to look at is way back here in June of 2022. Now, I cannot remember which one this was. I want to say that this middle one was Celsius because I believe the first big drop-off that happened back in 2022 was the whole shabacle with what was that coin called? I'm blanking on what it was called, but it was the week before was considered to be the savior of crypto, and then it fell apart, had a big drop. I'm pretty sure this June 2022 was Celsius crashing and losing billions of dollars of people's money. Terra Luna, that's what it is. Thank you, everybody. Terra Luna was back in here. Celsius was this situation. We dropped dramatically because of how terrible Celsius news was. Now, even though the bear market wasn't over, if FTX hadn't had its collapse way back here in November of 2022, we were seeing the beginning of the end of the bear market happening after Celsius. We would have dropped over the next couple of days after that terrible news and then started a rally that ultimately we probably would never have dropped below 17,000 again if it wasn't for the FTX news. Now, that's just the first thing I want to take a look at. Let's go on to some other stuff that we saw happen. You come back over here and you look at the day back on May 19th. Now, the rumor had already been coming out, but there was signs. It started with Elon Musk saying that he had environmental concerns back up here in May of 2021. On this day, this time period is back when it was confirmed that he was selling all of his Bitcoin, or some of his Bitcoin at least. Again, if you take a look at the time frame, this bearish day almost marked the bottom of this entire pullback, this massive drop. Yes, we would trade sideways for the next couple of weeks, but we would go on to rally and set new highs, even if they weren't that much higher. You come back over to the previous times. Now, this one, I don't know what happened back here in February, but there was another day where we dropped more than 15%. Back here, this was the time in January of 2021 where we absolutely had this nice rally, and it was alt season. So this was the take profit. Everyone was moving their Bitcoin profits into altcoins. But to get back even further, the time before that, and there's more in history, but let's just stop here. Of course, there was the tragic day back in 2020 in March. We saw Bitcoin's price. Let's actually take a look at how deep it went in that day. A 41% pullback when COVID happened. Ultimately, when you saw almost all of these signs, while we didn't see immediate rallies on the next day, every single one of these pullbacks marked pretty much right before the market had the worst of its pullback and wanted to resume back to the upside. It also came on terrible news. And right now, I said it earlier, while I'm not ready to officially call this a Black Swan event, I don't know who had on their bingo card last week. At least the majority of us had on their bingo card that Japan, Taiwan, and Korea economies would be crashing at historical levels. That has been the biggest factor in this pullback so far, and I don't know if that was something people had on their bingo card. Now, Michael Van de Poppe, he wrote a great post, and it was put into an article. He gives a lot of reasons. I think they're very fascinating as to why this dip is happening, and we're about a minute away from the stock market opening. We will go over and take a look at how that's factoring. But as I said, we're probably going to be here for an hour because we got a lot to get through here. Halfway through the show, and I feel like I haven't even gotten to all the points I want to make here. Let's zoom in here a little bit, actually, because you guys, I think Can't see that as well as I can. Van de Poppe believes the market is in capitulation phase, similar to past downturns, and expects a recovery driven by events like the Ethereum ETF. He advises watching Bitcoin dominance and the views that current period has a buying opportunity. According to Van de Poppe, capitulation often signals an approaching market bottom, offering a lucrative entry point for altcoin investment. That's what I just was talking about right there. All these pullbacks that are so dramatic, as I said, historically, at this magnitude, these are the levels that people are buying up bottoms of positions, and the rally is back on. That's what Van de Poppe's kind of talking about right here. Speaking of, one of the things he said to mention and look at, I don't know why I haven't done this morning. Guess what, guys? We set new highs for this bull market on our Bitcoin dominance. Remember that thing that we've been talking about now for a long time, over a year, that I've been saying I thought that Bitcoin dominance would get above 60%? Well, I think it's happening. I think it is on its way. We broke that high from way back here in April. It's only a matter of time before we end up hitting 60% dominance. I think that while the majority of this rally has come through Bitcoin falling, don't be surprised as the markets come back, as we do start buying the dips, as altcoins climb, as Bitcoin climbs, more will flow back into Bitcoin and the amazing buying opportunities, and it will still keep the Bitcoin dominance climbing to the upside. But that is something that he's saying, hey, keep an eye on that, and I 100% agree with him. Let's look at the factors, the big factors in play right now that are causing this crash. And I don't know if he has all of them put on here. It's kind of he does, but not really. All right, key factors behind the decline. Now, I'm not going to get deep into the political side of this. I'm just going to read what he says. We're going to move on. Political developments. Kamala Harris is gaining votes over Trump is causing fear in crypto investors. Ultimately, the thought there, I'm not going to go into this deep, but the thought is, obviously, crypto investors think Trump is going to be a better crypto president than Kamala Harris with the recent polls that are coming out. And I'm not going to speculate on their legitimacy or not, but the polls are kind of implying that Kamala Harris is taking a small lead. Well, if it's true, if Kamala Harris is taking a lead and crypto investors believe that she's not the right president to be a crypto president, that would be a lot of concern in crypto. That's definitely going to add to it. Is this the big reason we're crashing? Absolutely not. Is it an additional factor? I think so. I think it's something to be aware of. Let's look at geopolitical conflicts. Intensifying Israel-Gaza conflict, especially after the killing of Hamas leader in Iran. Such warlike situations are tumbling the global economy. Again, I'm not a war expert, but there are signs right now. It looks like we are on the precipice of a big war. I don't know how large it's going to get. Some people are saying World War III. I don't know. Big conflict in the Middle East. I think that's fair, at least. That's going to play a factor. Is that the whole reason? No. But it does play a factor in the fear of the markets right now. The last one, economic data. Poor labor market data, increased calls for rate cuts. So he's talking about the U.S. right here, raising recession fears. Many relate this crypto downturn as severe crash expected in September. Now, I want to come back to this. He did not include the Asian markets, but it's possible when he gave his analysis, the Asian markets had not crashed as they did earlier last night. Glimmer of hope, though. Increased global liquidity, particularly from China and Japan, is expected to boost the markets and potentially turn the bear market into a bull market. China's rising liquidity and U.S.'s expanding balance sheet are positive signs for Bitcoin and altcoins. Watch for positive flows in Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, which could drive market surges. A market rally may follow if gold hits new highs and the dollar yields decline. All right. I agree with a lot of what he just said right there. It backs up some things I've said kind of earlier in the show. This is liquidity markets. This is a lot of people, a lot of centralized entities, a lot of whales who took profit earlier, who sold and have been kind of behind these things. They now have a heavy amount of liquidity, and all of us retail investors are left holding the bags. Those of us who are going to capitulate and sell, we're going to sell it right back into their hands. We'll cover that a little more on the afternoon show today. We'll take a look at what whale wallets are doing. But the overall point that I want to make here is going back to the conflicts or the points that are behind the factor of this drop. He talks about the presidential situation. Let's start off right now. I just want to ask a question. Have we decided who the next president of the United States is? Oh, no, we haven't. Okay. I just want to make sure you understand that. We're really afraid of who the next president might be, but nothing's actually happened. Geopolitical conflict. Is there trouble right now in Israel? Absolutely. Has World War III broken out yet? No, it is not. Is that the fear, though? Yes, that's the fear, but it has not happened yet. Economic data. We have poor data that we're really afraid we're about to enter here in the United States a recession, and we need to react very crazily to it. Are we in a recession right now officially? I haven't seen the data saying we are. I think people are really afraid of it, but are we actually in one? The answer is no. What's the point here? With the exception of the Asian market, which is factual, you cannot make an argument that there's an opinion in what's happening in Asia. It's a fact that Japan is crashing. It's a fact that Taiwan and Korea, they have the worst economic days they've had in a very long time. Those are just facts. No opinions there. But these other three reasons that I do think are playing a part of this pullback, there's no facts to them, at least not yet. There's a fear of who might be president. There's a fear of how far this war could escalate. There's a fear of if America is headed for a recession. And that is causing these prices to pull back dramatically. You guys remember the expression, buy the rumor, sell the news, or vice versa, sell the rumor, buy the news? We are pricing in all of these fears. And that makes it a very bullish situation because you know what that means? If we're pricing in and we're crashing price because of the possibility of a Kamala Harris presidency, a World War III, and a recession in the United States, then worst case scenario, the price is already down and it doesn't need to crash that much lower. But the good possibility or the upside, the positive side of it is if all these three only turn into fears, because that's exactly what Composite Man wanted you to think about and invest off of, and these all end up being wrong. If we do see a Donald Trump presidency, if we do see war or World War III avoided, if we do see somewhat of a soft landing in the economic space here in the United States, that would be massively, massively bullish. It's another reason why I'm continuing to hold on and say, you know what? If we go to 20,000, I'm just going to ride it out anyway. If we go to zero, I'm going to ride it out all the way to the bottom. But I'm still bullish long-term on what crypto and what the stock market looks like, because I think a lot of the moves happening right now were actually kind of needed. They were cool-offs that were required, not in the crypto space necessarily, but in the stock market. And we'll go take a look here now that it is time. It's after 9:30. Let's take a look how those markets are responding. But ultimately, we all have been watching as the stock market just sets crazy, crazy highs, despite the fact that everyone's saying we should have been in a recession. We should not be doing that well right now. Let's take a look at what has happened. Just as we suspected, we opened up that low. Let's see how close we are to that 10% dip here in the S&P 500. We did not quite get there, right? So we got to go a little bit lower for that 10% down to about 5,100. Either way, though, extremely, extremely close to answering that problem that we have been talking about now for a while. Keep an eye on what's happening there. Let's take a look at what indicators are saying here. Let's just do a couple of these. We got a breaker block in play for sure at the moment. We went way lower than our daily take profit. Let's see at the weekly. I don't think the weekly was under a sell order. So yeah, we're not seeing necessarily anything there saying it's terrible. What we did see and what we're responding to right now is that the weekly chart had been overextended here on the S&P 500. We told you guys, look at the excessive buyers, look at the bearish divergence, the reversal, the bearish momentum. All of this was a sign we needed to drop. Now, where are we currently sitting? We're currently sitting in the weekly smart trail. This is a first level of support. If things get worse, keep an eye down here on this breaker block way down at about 4,500. That would be a very large dip in the S&P 500. That would bring us down almost 20%, pretty much to 20%, give or take. Is that possible? It's absolutely possible. But as a whole, right now, we are sitting on support at our current point in the market that we told you was a pullback level to keep an eye on. And that was before all of the fears, all of the chaos. This was during the bullish momentum. We said 10% pullback looks like it should be coming. Let's take a look at some of these other ones like Tesla. Tesla bouncing back early. Yes, they opened up way down here, down in their weekly smart trail, but they're now bouncing back, working to close up this gap even at the moment. So while we opened low, bullish start to the day for Tesla, we'll keep an eye on them. Same thing for Coinbase, opening way, way, way down. Let's see what. Oh, I got to adjust this. We actually ended up opening down 20%, but you can see Coinbase making a little bit of a surge this morning after hitting that weekly smart trail itself. Microsoft, a little bit of a surge, hitting the take profit of its sell order here to the charts. We're just kind of telling us about this stuff, guys. We fell below that smart trail, but we're working to recapture it. So keep an eye on that one. Meta didn't really open with a drop. It opened with a very small drop. But Meta kind of closing its little drop. MicroStrategy closing its. Amazon, let's see what you're doing, closing yours. Apple, big gain on Apple this morning. even though Warren Buffett sold half the stock there. Let's see. We dropped back to a major level of support here, Smart Trail, and to our breaker block, our bullish breaker block in play right here. As a whole, starting the day off very, very positively for the stock market. We'll check back in later this afternoon to see if that rally continues, but this was not necessarily crazy. This is what we kind of expected with those big of gaps going to be forming in here. Let's take a look at what the Dixie is doing this morning. Dixie continues to plummet. This should be a semi-positive sign that it's not like all the money is flowing back into the US dollar. The dollar is now back down to levels we saw in early March, back below 102. Let's turn on Luxago, see what it is working on. Currently under a sell order, just starting a sell order today, creating a bearish breaker block. That's on the weekly chart. Let's see what the daily chart would tell us. Daily chart picking up some steam, not yet overextended, but we are hitting take profit levels. So maybe we should see some form of a bounce today on the dollar. But long term, when we come back out here and look at the weekly, there's further room to the downside. And even this one, if you come down here to the next order block, the next, looks order block in play. That's not even a bullish order block. This one would say you should go even lower. The next level of weekly support kind of showing up here is back down towards $95, a price we've not seen since January of 2022, when we really started to get explosive during the bear market season. So Dixie giving us some positive signs as it continues to fall. Bitcoin, as we have opened this morning, let's come down to a lower time frame here because we're just getting going. Back up, rallied again. We were just, as we were talking a couple of minutes ago, before 9:30, we fell back below 50,000. We're now back up above 51. Does that mean the bottom is in and there's nothing but blue skies and rainbows from here? No, not necessarily. We got a long day, a lot of things to come out. The reason that we're going to see potentially some positivity is going to be this right here. And we'll have to speculate more on this in the afternoon, but there's an emergency Fed rate cut that is being discussed right now. I saw rumors about it this morning, and while this article talks about it in a way that it's factual, I want to make sure you guys understand, I have not seen Jerome Powell or the Fed announce this. If there's anyone in chat that has seen that and wants to fact check this, go for it. Let me know if for some reason I missed it, but I'm going to read the article as if we are going to see this. But in response to a severe global crypto market crash, the U.S. Federal Reserve has called an emergency meeting today. This decision comes as Japanese markets face a substantial collapse, with the Japanese yen plummeting by 13%. Other Asian markets, including Korea and Taiwan, seeing declines of nearly 10%. Bitcoin has also been hit hard, experienced an 18% drop in the past 5 days. The S&P futures has fallen by 4%, reflecting widespread market crisis or distress. Excuse me. Let's see here. What did I want to say? Did I have more down here? Oh, yeah. Okay. We had more down here. What is the Fed up to? Here's where we get into what would this kind of mean, though, because I kind of have some mixed feelings about what an emergency meeting would imply. The Fed's quick response shows how dire market conditions are and how urgent intervention is. However, Bitcoin critic Peter Schiff warned that the rate decreases could signal a recession. Goldman Sachs' recession likelihood for the next year has increased from 15 to 25%. The report also states that the economy is stable with no big financial imbalances and plenty of Fed flexibility. So again, remember I said earlier, we're reacting out of a lot of fear right now, but there's not necessarily the facts backing up the fear. They're actually saying, despite the fact that unemployment has risen a little bit, it's not necessarily out of control. It's more about the fear of, could it get worse? The Fed's upcoming September meeting is becoming increasingly important as central banks around the world start cutting rates. There is concern that delaying rates could lead to a more severe economic downturn in the fourth quarter. Goldman Sachs predicts a more conservative 25 basis point Fed rate cut in September, November, and December. They predict a 50 basis point drop if August's unemployment report is as bad as July's. Here's where you need to kind of understand this. There's been a lot of people looking for a Fed rate cut to bring breath back into the markets. I don't know how I feel about this. I've been one of the people saying at this point for a while now that I think that a rate cut will be bullish because it will not be a deterrent, or it won't be in response to a recession. It will be because the markets are good enough that they can cut rates to prevent incoming recession. And we're in some dangerous territory right now. Like I said, the data numbers are not saying we're in a recession just yet. But if we act out of fear And we have an emergency meeting today. And I've seen some people, I think on Watch.Guru, let's actually take a look at this one. There's a report. I don't know this guy, but Wharton's professor Jeremy Siegel calls for a 75% 0.75% emergency rate cut by the Fed. What he means is at the meeting today, they have the power. They don't have to wait till September. They can do a rate cut right this second if they wanted to. He's saying they should go with 3 whole points there, like 0.75 basis points. That'd be, 3 moves of 25. If that happens, that's concerning to me. That one would cause me to potentially think at least the stock market will drop a lot lower, because if they were to go about doing that, that would be, as Peter Schiff said, not going to find myself agreeing with Peter Schiff on too many things, but I agree with him on this one, that if they did cut immediately, that is the evidence to us that they are extremely afraid of a recession. There's something in the data that they are scared out of their minds. And that's not a positive sign, because remember, historically, rate cuts meaning crash in the stock market. They mean crashes in the stock market. Why though? It's not that the rate cut itself crashed the stock market. That doesn't even make sense. A rate cut should help the stock market. Rate cuts have helped prevent stock markets from getting even worse than they were. But in this case, if it's true that they're going to respond out of fear with an emergency rate cut, while it might be short-term bullish and maybe stop the bleeding for a second, you're not going to prevent the recession with a 75 basis point cut. You're not going to stop the recession if you cut it by 1.5. If the economy is in trouble and people are losing their jobs left and right, and we're about to crash historically, rate cuts might help lessen the blow, but they're not going to stop it. However, I'm not convinced yet that the numbers are that bad. And I don't think the Fed necessarily is going to do this. I think the Fed is going to have a meeting today. I mean, that's what it sounds like. My expectation is they come together and they say, you know what? We need to see more data. We should not, and I don't think they should be responding out of fear. They should be waiting for data to come in. They should be taking this one step at a time. But here's what I will tell you. As all this chaos is happening, it's going to be very bullish for crypto, at least for Bitcoin. That thing that we have now in the world and with fiat currency, with a dollar, how we can just turn a money printer on and go brrr. I don't know if that's the actual sound effect, but brr, that's going to happen. And that's going to be bullish for Bitcoin. Whether or not a recession ends up being bullish for Bitcoin or not, I'm not certain about just yet. I do think that Bitcoin is a safe haven people should be running to protect their assets. But when they turn the money printers back on, whether a recession hits or not, that will be bullish for Bitcoin. That will cause people to move their money back over into crypto. With that said, though, we'll continue to monitor that special meeting that the Fed is having. Whether they're having it or not, we'll continue to monitor that, talk more about that this afternoon. But I'll go ahead and tell you, while I have been extremely positive about interest rate cuts being a good thing for the market, if it is in response to a recession, that's not a good thing. If it is to present a recession, that could be very, very bullish long-term. If it's not out of hand, if the numbers are good, then cutting rates is going to be a positive thing, but we'll have to continue to kind of speculate on that as it comes out. Let's wrap up the show here. Last 12 minutes. Let's talk about, let's just get into chat here. Let's engage with chat. I had some other things news-wise I wanted to talk about, but I think I got the majority of it out. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors of these videos. We have Houdini Swap and CoinW. Make sure to check them out if you're looking for places to swap your portfolios around. Maybe you need to swap a lot of your altcoins into Bitcoin today. Houdini Swap is the perfect one for you. Check out the link down below. If you're looking to buy spot and you want cheap prices, CoinW is the level for you. If you want to trade some of this volatility, if you're experienced, CoinW's got some great options there as well. So shout out to them for sponsoring this content. Let's go ahead and get into chat and engage you guys. John Bennett says we are pumping because Bitcoin's back above 52. I be hesitant to call that pumping, but I will call that a positive sign. Let's continue to watch how that kind of plays out. Let's see where we can be over the next little bit. But like we said, the opening this morning was pretty bullish, and it makes sense that it was bullish. We had a major pullback last night. And again, I hope a lot of you guys are smart money people. I hope a lot of you guys were buying yesterday, this morning. I know I was buying a whole lot, not at the perfect bottom. I bought some a couple days ago around 60,000. I bought some more last night around 54. I kind of where we currently are, I'm like, well, I don't really need to buy anymore at the moment. I feel good about my investments. If we dropped to 42, I'll probably be buying some more. Hopefully you guys are kind of in the same concept there, but ultimately these whole moves were generated as a chance to get retail investors to capitulate, to sell off, and so that the whales and institutions, they can continue to buy. And I think it's coincidental also. I don't think it's coincidental that we fell almost to the penny right back to the high spike back in January after the Bitcoin ETF. And then we were able to buy back at that level. That means there's a lot of people who looked at that as that serious level of buying pressure, and they bought heavily. Our volume at the moment too, let's check out the chart. Volume, we haven't seen this level of volume on the daily chart since when? Way back in March, and ultimately kind of in that area where after the ETFs got exciting, we started to spike back up, matching kind of the levels of that ETF day we're talking about here as well. So big volume coming in today, some selling, but I think by the time it's all said and done, we might see a large amount of buying here as well. Also, by the way, didn't say this earlier, came down. The other reason for this support level, nice order block in play, very bullish order block where a lot of bears who were in shorts took out and they left the space right there. Let's keep going in here. Let's answer more chat. Sounds okay. Let's see. Dave D, I've been buying all the dips, definitely not at the bottom, but at good prices I'm happy with. That's the key right there. El Thoro, Tim, the amount of whales, I'm assuming that emoji would mean buying, right? Again, I don't have the charts right here. I'm going to get those for later this afternoon, but I've seen on Twitter, and you always have to take Twitter or X with a grain of salt, but I've seen people posting that whales are buying. I haven't seen any on-chain data. I haven't seen any wallets. I haven't seen anything officially, but it makes logical sense that whales are buying these dips. Even if we go lower, these are still great buying levels. Alex Mathis, guys, we are pumping because I'm buying. Sorry. Well, that's good then. Keep buying. Let's go. Other questions we have here. Username, does Tim let Brody beat him in Super Smash or teach him a lesson? Life isn't easy. We're talking about my son, who is 1 year old. I guess he's like 15 or 16 months now. He does not play Super Smash. I don't play Super Smash. But I'll tell you this. On principle, I would not let him beat me. That's just not how the world works. The world's hard. And I'm going to teach my son that when you win things, you have to earn it. And that's what makes it so much more fun. If you win things easily, anything you win easily or anything you accomplish or learn easily isn't that valuable. It's the things that come through struggle, strife, blood, sweat, tears. It's when you earn it that way that it becomes valuable. And I'm going to teach my son that. So no, I will not let my son beat me in Super Smash Bros. It's just how I'm going to live my life. If you disagree, that's completely fine. You're not me, and Brody's not your son. He's my son. Is the Bitcoin bull flag still in place? Yeah. So, yeah, let's see. Is it in place? Yes, it's in place. I don't know if we really should consider it a bull flag much, though, anymore. When I say it's in place, it's because, yeah, we closed back up above that. That's kind of a nasty wick. Oh, I said I was going to say this earlier. Oh, yeah, okay. This is a good question here. I don't know if this is a bull flag necessarily, but I do think it looks eerily similar and feels eerily similar to what we had back in 2019. I've talked about this before. I'll talk about it again. Falling channel here. Now, whether or not you want to include the Black Swan event or not, we had a big rally, didn't hit new all-time highs back in 2019, but a very big rally historically that, in these bear markets, you don't see. If I were to go to a longer time frame, let's go here. Let's go weekly chart, actually, so we get less candles. Makes it easier to process and look at. Usually in past bull markets, when you come out of the bottom of a bear market, you just continue to go to the upside. You might have 40% pullbacks, but they're very small. I mean, as a whole, bottom, rally. There's no big pullbacks. But in 2019, Bitcoin started this rally, got a little too hot, a little too heavy. It rallied earlier than historical market said it should. And we ended up having on Bitcoin a nice 50% pullback even before COVID. COVID would make it a nice 71% pullback. But even before that happened, we had a 53% pullback. I know I said 51, but I've done it before. It's 53. I think, and let's go back over here to this one. I think that while it's not identical, it's a very similar looking move to what we have going on at the moment, where we rallied extremely fast, faster and higher than most people thought we should. I saw a report this morning, according to Wolf of Alt Streets, great guy, go follow him on X. He said pretty much like if you were to take a look at past bull markets, if we hadn't ever had the Bitcoin ETF and we had nothing but upward movement, this is about historically where we should have been here around $50,000. So as a whole, it's not that bearish of a market, and we're seeing very similar signs to what we saw back in 2019. But that's not the only thing we're seeing very similar. People are freaking out about altcoins right now. And let's go take a look at Cardano. And I told you guys, I'm not going to make this point to pump Cardano and say that Cardano is going to be going to historical levels and be the top mover of the bull market. My point here is I want to talk about what happened in 2019 and talk about how far back Cardano pulled, and everyone thought it was dead. Everyone, after this 71% pullback in Cardano before COVID, said that Cardano was dead, but it would go on to explode back to the upside. But something on how far back we pulled, it's actually coincidental to what we just did. If you were to use Fibonacci levels here on the logarithmic chart, we pulled back into what is called the platinum pocket level between the 0.88 and 0.786. Yes, we'd go to lower lows in the COVID years, but let's just not, or the COVID time period, let's just focus on this normalized pullback. What we're seeing in Cardano and the most of the altcoin space is this pullback unprecedented. Does this mean that Cardano and altcoins are dead? Well, if you take a look, if we talk about repeating history, look at where Cardano just bounced perfectly to the 0.88 of the platinum pocket. A replica move of the same time period on Bitcoin of 2019, a same pullback move, which continues to pile up the evidence that this has happened before. We're seeing repeats in history. We're seeing things be coincidental. And also, anyone who's saying that altcoins are dead, no, altcoins are not dead. It's just not altcoin season. So as you watch things like Solana pulling way back, we don't have a lot of history on Solana to say it's mimicking a historical move, but let's just say it pulls back down to $100. Let's say it pulls back down to $80. Look at what that would look like if price went to $80 and then bounced. No one will look back on this in history and say that's a bearish looking chart. But even for the charts that do kind of look bearish, where Chainlink could pull back and Cardano could pull back and Polkadot is pulling back and all these different things, Polkadot actually wicked down pretty much to match its lows of the bear market. Does this mean that altcoins are dead? No, it doesn't. Even Ethereum, look at, did not mean to use that one. Look at Ethereum's past bull market. Where is it? Right here. Look at Ethereum's past bull market in this 2019 period. Look at how close it comes down. COVID brings us almost down to double bottom of this bear market bottoms, but we fell very close on Ethereum to the lows. We were within 42%. And yet we still would go on to have an epic bull market. What's my point here? It's still so early, and the things that are happening right now with these pullbacks are so predictably manipulative. Anyone saying the bull market is over because of these pullbacks has not studied the altcoin history, has not studied the crypto history, and is not paying attention to current events. I'll say this again, as I've said it throughout the show. The reason things are pulling back right now are not based in root facts. They're not based in actualities. They're based in fears. And I'll tell you this, when actual recessions happen, when actual wars happen, when actual bad presidents get elected happen, all this kind of stuff. Well, the president thing might be predictable. The wars and recessions, they don't let you know about them. They don't put that into the media. They want that in the media to scare you. They want you to read articles about war and about recession and make you respond negatively to it. If they were actually afraid that prices were going to go lower and they wanted to sell, they would keep it all quiet, or they'd try to be pumping you with a lot of positivity. So unless you think that they're buying me, because I'm sitting here pumping you with positivity, if you think I'm owned by mainstream media, okay, I can't stop you from thinking that. But if you don't think I am, and you understand how this game works, and you believe these tactics, this is exactly historically how they've done it in the past, and they're going to continue to do it, because even though I've learned this trick, and a lot of you have learned this trick, and thousands and millions of other traders have learned this trick, every single year there's a bunch of new suckers that they know that they can take advantage of, and that's exactly what's happening right now. So I guess we wrap out the show, because it is 9:59. Make sure you guys smash that like button. We had over 700 people here watching during the stream. Smash that like button if you enjoyed the show. Hit subscribe if you love the content. But I want to leave you with that closing thought that I've been saying the entire show. These are the opportunities that people make money. These are the times in the markets where the best buying happens, but only the courageous, only the brave, and ultimately only the whales take advantage of it. Are you going to act like a whale or are you going to act like a retail investor? Make sure you guys are staying vigilant in how you're looking at things in the market, but ultimately, it's time to buy the dip, everybody. We'll see you this afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully, T-Shroom's internet is back on. If not, it'll be just me again, and we'll continue to wrap up how today's moves are looking with a pretty bow. But I love you guys. Smash a like on the way out. See you in the next one. Adios.
Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor of the TA. Shout it out loud on the PA. T-Shroom's news, got your word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividend. Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros.
Investing bros. Investing bros. Investing bros. Investing bros. Investing bros.